Hey everybody, welcome, welcome to Hidden Horror. Thank you for spending this time with me. I appreciate that. Let's get started.
Hey everybody, happy Sunday to you. Happy Sunday. How are you guys feeling today? How was your weekend? Any special plans? Anything you did? I know we're getting close to back to school time, so I know people's schedules are going to get busier as their kids return to school. Maybe I should drop some safety tips just to keep everybody's mind alert when school comes back soon. So today I'm here. I'm going to quickly bring you this information on the sixth roommate. The information is out. She's come forward. She's made a statement. She was not physically living at 1122 King Road on November 3rd. Well, I should say on November 12th, Saturday, November 12th into Sunday, November 13th. She was on the lease, but she was not a resident that was occupying space at the property. She had moved out earlier in the year of 2022 because she graduated. And once she graduated, although she was still on the lease, she moved out. So I'm going to bring you that information. Um, there's nothing really to say about her coming out. She didn't add anything, but I would have liked to ask her if she was going to sit down for an interview. I would have had a ton of questions, more so not about herself so much, maybe her relationship with the other roommates. Also, how did people get along? Where were people living in the house? Which bedrooms were being occupied on first, second, and third floors? I would have liked to know about the locks on the doors, the locks on the bedrooms. I would have liked to know about the windows. Hey, did they lock? Did they close? Um, did the sliding door close? Was that operational? Did they typically lock their doors when they were having parties? Were the people allowed to traverse throughout the house? It appeared from just looking at the past body cam police videos, there were a lot of people in the house. Sometimes it did not appear, unless the roommates did not want to come forward to talk to the police, that there weren't even residents, occupants at the house. Was that typical? Did you have, dozens of people in the house when no one was there? Or were rooms locked when no one was there, but people were allowed to kind of have their parties? Now, I've watched some videos and read some things, and it's saying that there was not always an all girls house. They would rotate, and sometimes there would be males. So it would be all males in the house. But at this time, it was all females occupying the property. And typically they were fraternity or sorority related. So um, I would have had a ton of questions for her, but not so much about herself, more so the comings and goings and the regular activity at the property. Did they ever have any problems? Did they ever have anybody lurking around the house? Was there ever any incidents where people were dressing as police officers but were not police officers, because that's something else that I've seen in the past that could have been an issue. But you know me, I have a ton of questions. And of course, none of them were asked by mainstream media. Hey, if you're sitting down, take advantage of the opportunity to question, to learn the habits of the roommates and the property, the house. Was it always that dark? In the front, in the back, it was extremely dangerously dark. Somebody could easily hide in the front or the back. Those body cam videos of the police officers demonstrated how dark the area was, how there was no lighting. If they had not hung those lights outside in the back, it would have been extremely dark. And guess what? They didn't have any window coverings up. You could see directly into the property in some of the areas of the house through the windows. So that would be something else, like again, the stalking, the stalker idea. Was that person able to easily just peer into the property, especially at night when you can just see directly in the house because there's going to be lights on because it's so dark outside? I would have asked her that. I would have asked her about the ladder. This ladder is leaning on the side of the house. Did anybody think about that? Did anybody use the ladder? Did they use the ladder to put the lights up that was in the back of the house on the patio? What was the ladder there for? Was it ever moved? Was it always in that position? Me, I got questions. So anyway, let's find out what she has to say. Okay, let's go and let's get started, everybody. So my first article, I have two. The first one is coming from foxnews.com. It's titled Idaho Murders. Police shed light on six-person listed on lease at Moscow home. It's dated December 2nd, 2022. And it starts off by saying Sunday marked 2 weeks since four University of Idaho college students were murdered in the off-campus Moscow home. So I am going to share the video with you, but I'm going to read the article first. Idaho police say they do not believe the sixth roommate of the University of Idaho student slain earlier this month was involved in the quadruple homicide, which remains unsolved after 19 days. The Moscow Police Department revealed Thursday that a sixth person was listed on the lease at 1122 King Road, which has been considered a crime scene since the November 13th bloodshed. Officials revealed hours later that the person had moved out prior to before the school year began and was not present at the address at the time the four students were killed. So she had been moved out like more than 6 months. The Friday afternoon press release further stated that detectives do not believe this person has any involvement in the murders. Three of the building's tenants, Xana Kernodle, 20, and 21-year-olds Kaylee Goncalves and Madison Mogen, were among those found killed just before noon on November 13th, police said. Kernodle's boyfriend, 20-year-old Ethan Chapin, also did not survive the attack. Mogen and Goncalves were sleeping on the same floor in the same bed when they were stabbed multiple times, according to police and family members. Chapin and Kernodle were on a different floor. I want to insert myself in a couple of things. Let me just pause for a second. In the beginning, there was a rumor that was on the news, the local news, that there was another roommate that was taken to the hospital. I never got confirmation of it. I never heard it mentioned again. I didn't see it in the news. I didn't see it in print. So I kind of left that alone. Now, possibly, potentially, is there another roommate, another person unknown to us that could have been taken to the hospital that was injured but not killed? We don't know, right? But we are able to confirm that there was a sixth roommate on the list. Remember, there are six bedrooms in this property, two on each floor. So if this is accurate, this is complete, we can tend to believe that even though she was responsible on the lease, she didn't live there, that she is in fact the sixth roommate. But could there possibly and potentially be an unknown person that was injured but taken to the hospital? We have no idea. It is possible. We don't know. We never got confirmation or any further details about it. But I do want to address that that was something that was put into the local news, and I just never was able to this day, almost 2 years later, to get any confirmation of a sixth person, excuse me, another person, because we had six in the house. So it would be a seventh person that was injured and taken to the hospital. Now, that's one thing I wanted to say. The other thing was, let's go back. When they start talking about Mogen and Goncalves and how they were sleeping on the same floor in the same bed, I just want to pause that thought for a second because we know that in the second bedroom, which was allegedly Kaylee's old bedroom, Murphy, her dog, was in there. Now, is it possible, is it likely that Kaylee was in her old bedroom with Murphy? And when the attack on the third floor began, or when the killer or killers came to the third floor, they went to Kaylee and took Kaylee into Maddie's bedroom. Because is it likely that they both would have been in the same bed sleeping? Is it possible? Yes, it's possible. Is it, if you have another option to sleep in your own bed, in your own room, in your old room, is that possible, right? Or do we just want to accept that they were found? Because I think if we say they both were sleeping in the bed, it kind of negates that they could have been apart, but during the attack or when everything began, they could have brought them together into Maddie's room. Now we know from pictures online and everything, Maddie's room, all of the rooms were fairly small, but Maddie's room, it was extremely small and her bed was small. So it makes me wonder, were Kaylee and Maddie falling asleep in the same room or maybe even talking in the same room up when the attack started and neither one of them were asleep? Or was Maddie asleep? Or was Kaylee in her old bedroom? Maddie was already in her bedroom sleep. And when the attack started, did Maddie get unalive first, and then maybe Kaylee came into the room, and that's why she may have heard something? I'm giving my mind thinks about all this, and it thinks about how things could have unfolded. But if Maddie was asleep and the attack started in Maddie's room, and if Kaylee was in her old room with Murphy, is it possible that Kaylee just got up, maybe heard something, and went into Maddie's room? Because remember, there was barking. Allegedly, possibly, Kaylee said something. Maybe she came into the room and Maddie was being attacked. She was being unalived in the bed. And then she began to fight. And that's why she had the defensive wounds. Because if Maddie and Kaylee were both in the bed, and I guess if we had some crime scene photos, we could see potentially if Kaylee was possibly in her old room, laying in bed. Was the bed disturbed? Was her personal items there? Was her purse there? Her car keys, etc., in her old room? Or was all of these things in Maddie's room? Because if they came back from being out at the corner club and then going to the grub truck, they would have had their food. Did they share the food or whatever? Did they find food being digested in their body? But if they were in the room, was the food in the room? Was all her personal items in Maddie's room, or was they in her old bedroom? But even still, at the end of the day, they say that Kaylee's body was in the bed also with Maddie, kind of set up. I feel this is placement. I've said this before. Um, if you're having an attack, if you're being stabbed also, and you're fighting back, you're getting these defensive wounds, cuts on your hands, your fingers, etc., throughout your body with all these stabbings. Was she placed there? And if so, again, I've always said, was there any evidence of an S assault? Were the girls, any of them, redressed, particularly Kaylee or Maddie? But I'm still contemplating when I read stuff like this and they say they were sleeping. Well, we know Kaylee more than likely was not asleep because she had the defensive wounds. And we know typically when a person has defensive wounds, they're woke, they're moving, they're fighting back. So I think you just have to be careful about some of the wording, some of the language, because we don't know. We do know both phones for Kaylee and Maddie. There was no activity after 2:52 a.m. That's something that we do know. And we always have to point to that because that is for both phones a fact. No more activity. But okay, let's move on. So three of the building's tenants, Xana Kernodle, 20 and 21-year-olds Kaylee Goncalves and Madison Mogen, were among those found killed just before noon on November 13th, police said. Kernodle's boyfriend, 20-year-old Ethan Chapin, also did not survive the attack. Mogen and Goncalves were sleeping on the same floor in the same bed when they were stabbed multiple times, according to police and family members. Chapin and Kernodle were on a different floor. Police have said the victims were asleep around 3 a.m. and 4 a.m. when they were stabbed multiple times on the second and third floors of the three-story home. The medical examiner determined some of the victims had showed signs of fighting back. The residence was located just a block from the University of Idaho campus perimeter and within eyeshot of some fraternity houses. Two other roommates were on the bottom floor, so they're also reporting. This is something I said they changed this. Two other roommates were on the bottom floor of the home at the time and survived. So they're referring to Bethany and Dylan, and they're saying that they were on the first floor. Somehow, some way that has changed. Anyway, we'll get to that another day in another video. Okay, according to authorities, Moscow police officers responded around 11:58 a.m. to a report of an unconscious person at the address. And we know anyway, but several people had gathered at the crime scene by the time police arrived, officials said. So we know that's not really accurate. Unconscious, there would have been blood everywhere. There would have been visibly, you could see their bodies, large amounts of blood splatter, blood spray, very gruesome, tragic scene, no signs of life after 8 hours, 9 hours of sitting, laying on the floor or whatever areas they were in the bed, in the bedrooms, deceased. According to police, the 911 call originated from inside the residence and came from one of the surviving roommates' cell phones. Police said multiple people spoke to the dispatcher before officers arrived. So we know that's kind of like BS because allegedly the roommates had activity on their phones. They allegedly were texting each other, and allegedly they called their other friends over to the property hours before they called 911. So it's irrelevant that this whole sentence is just two sentences is just irrelevant about the 911 call. We know it's not significant because they already knew about the crimes when the crimes were happening. They were up, they were allegedly texting each other. They saw things, they heard things, and they didn't do anything about it. So we're going to move on. Police have since towed 5 vehicles from the King Road home and said they are in talks about when and how they will release the crime scene. Officials have said they believe the attack was targeted, despite some confusion as to how or why, and have not identified the intended victim. So who says that an attack is targeted, but you don't know who was the target or what was the target? Doesn't make sense. But anyway, on Wednesday, Idaho State Police Communications Director Aaron Snell said all of the vehicles that were towed from the home were previously searched and are still part of the crime scene and the ongoing search warrant. All 5 have been moved to the City of Moscow maintenance shop where police can access them if the need arises. Police have said they have collected 113 pieces of physical evidence and captured about 4,000 photos of the crime scene. Investigators have received more than 488 digital media submissions via the FBI portal. Investigators are still working to identify a suspect and have not yet recovered the weapon. The Moscow Police Department is urging the public to submit any images or information that they think could be important or useful to their investigation. They can do so by calling, submitting tips through, and sending digital media, etc. And they dedicated a webpage to the King Road attack. So that's one article that I wanted to go over. I'm going to play the video as well. One of the videos that's attached to the article. I'm going to play that. I guess for me, I still have some questions about the entry. We don't know if the killers entered through the sliding glass door. We know what one of the roommates said about seeing them walk towards the sliding glass door, and that could be true, right? Allegedly, I'm going to say, because they're exiting, but how did they enter? Now, there was a picture online which kind of bothered me because I've been doing my research. Um, I've been looking hard. I tried to look for the video of the unaliveness of Kaylee and Maddie. Couldn't find that. I tried to find the video of Ethan and Xana going into that two-story on the first floor apartment. Couldn't find that. I've looked through over 5,000 like videos that I did. I couldn't find anything, but I'm uncovering, I'm reviewing things that I already reviewed. And something that I saw that kind of was making me think a little bit is, did the person even enter in through the sliding door? They could have walked out. They could have walked out of the first floor door, the rear sliding door. They could have exited a window. They could have used the ladder to climb down, all of that. But I started to think about how did they enter, and I want to show you a picture. It's going to take me a second to pull it up. Because let me see if I can pull it up real quick. I apologize. There's something that was bugging me. And it could be small, it could be little, but when I was going back and looking at pictures, I was looking at some exterior pictures, and I was looking at, well, I'm going to try to share my screen so you guys can kind of see what I'm looking at. Then I'll show you the video from that article. But this was kind of tripping me out a little bit because I was trying to, well, you guys know about this picture, right? This was like a big deal. They were trying to say it wasn't the victim's blood. There was also blood on the kitchen cabinets too, if you can recall. And I might be able to find the video because remember, they didn't have any window coverings. Look, I'm not trying to show you these videos. I'm trying to click on like a still picture. Excuse me. But there's no window. This is the sliding glass door. There's no as I've said before, there's no window coverings, right? So you can see right into the property. So that's just one. But there's a picture over like to the left of the kitchen sink, and there's like a little plant, but it appears to have been maybe knocked over. Here it is, everybody. I found it. So I was scouring through some videos. Let me take a sip of water. I was scouring through some videos. I saw this photo of this bag of food with Xana's name on it, but that's not what got my interest. This is the kitchen sink. This is the countertop. This is the window to the left. The reason I'm bringing this up is because look at this plant. Uh-oh. I'm sorry. Wait. Let me see if I can go back to the plant. Okay. Look at this plant. It's dirt on the outside. So it made me feel like did somebody climb through this kitchen window? And I started thinking about it, and I'm kind of getting away from the topic we were on. But I'm just trying to share everything with you so you can kind of see how I think. So this plant dirt is on the outside of the plant, and this is a window right here. So I said, I wonder if the killer could have got in through this window. So I started looking more at the kitchen layout. So let me show you guys something. And this is what's going to make why I'm bringing up the ladder. No, I don't want a video. Oh, okay, this is fine, a picture. Okay, so this is a perfect picture of what I'm trying to explain. This picture here is the rear of the house. You see the ladder? You can literally see the ladder right here. The kitchen, so this was the area we were looking at. This is the kitchen. The space that I was showing you, this is the sink. You can literally see the sink right here, and this is that window. Now, this is the walk up patio right here. You just walk right up. And you see the window is here to the left on the higher ground. So the window is, it's several feet up. I would say it has to be about 4 to 5 feet above ground, or maybe even higher, because you see that it's like they're on like a slant. But if you get this ladder here, this silver ladder with whatever that blue thing is, run it over here. If you had unlocked the window, or if you knew the window was unlocked, you can just move this ladder over here and you're coming in. So when I show you, this is the kitchen sink, this is where the plant was, this is the patio door, this is the patio door, this is the kitchen window, this is the ladder. So when I show you, again, the picture with the plant knocked over, you understand why I think, oh, someone could have easily grabbed that ladder, put the ladder up against the house, and voila, they're already in the house. They're already in the house, right through the window. And I'm wondering if police did a good job trying to get any fingerprints off that kitchen window, because I know there was a lot of focus on that sliding door. And I know people were thinking, oh, they probably came in through the sliding door. The sliding door, the sliding door would be a perfect place for them to just come in, to walk in. It would be so easy. But you know what? When you look at that plant, and I'm trying to find it again, when you look at that plant knocked over, the dirt is out of the plant. So something knocked the plant over. And we know this is an accurate and recent photo. There's a drink, there's Xana's order, her order from Jack in the Box. And look at the plant, it's knocked over. And there's the window. Something for us to consider, something for us to think about, keep in mind as we're doing our investigation, right? Anyway, let me share the video. Let me get that up. All right. Did I grab the right one? I think I did. Let me see. Nope, no, I didn't. I'm sorry. It's not that one. Wait. Is it? I'm trying to think. Is it this one? Let me check the article real quick. Yeah, it's this one. Okay. Well, let's enlarge it and let's press play. Let's hear what they have to say, okay?
Let's bring in Ted Williams, former DC police detective, defense attorney, and a Fox News contributor. Thank you so much for being with us, sir. I want to show you these pictures from the Daily Mail showing the crime scene. We can pull them up on our screen here so people can take a look. What's your takeaway when you look at this? It looks like a pretty typical scene for college students, but...
Again, so we don't see any window coverings, right? No window coverings. Let's continue.
Does the clutter, the disorganization, does that make it harder or easier to find evidence?
Well, Jack, it makes it more difficult for law enforcement, but you're right. It is a typical college room. They're shared by, at least now we know, 6 students. But when we look at this complete scenario here of what is taking place, it is, we get more from the family about what is taking place than we are getting from law enforcement. But when you look at the inside or the interior of that home, where you have really 3 stories, and the killing took place on the 2nd floor and on the 3rd floor, it leads me to believe that it was someone who had some knowledge of that home. And if you are on the first floor, the only way you can get into this home is through the front door. If you're on the second floor, where or at least two of the individuals were killed, you can get in through the back door, which is a sliding glass door. But whoever killed these 4 students.
Look at the ladder. Well, they just decreased it, but the ladder is still here. Now it has snow on the ground, but the window is here. The patio leading to the slide doors. You could quickly take this ladder and climb in if the window is unlocked.
Or certainly would have been covered in blood. And I would hope that what the authorities would do is put out more information, or that the public can.
Also, look at the placement of the ladder. If you climb up this ladder, you can quickly get to the second floor, and there's 2 windows. You know, if you wanted to get out of the house or enter the house, if these windows are also unlocked, you could quickly do that. I remember seeing it was a drone video, and it almost looked like there was blood on the landing. I don't remember. I think it was on the second floor, and it made me think, yeah, because it was outside of Xana's bedroom. It made me think, well, what if the killer or killers came out of Xana's window and used the ladder, because there was like a trail of red. And I thought, well, they would be covered in blood, and that would make sense to me, especially seeing it the way it was. Now you can't see it because now all of the roofing is covered with falling snow. But then with the drone, it made me think about it like, wow, what if the killers didn't come out of the sliding glass, or if there was more than one, if one went out or multiple went out of the sliding glass door, but what if one went out of the window of Xana's bedroom? You know, did the police take notice whether the windows were locked or unlocked? When they did their walkthrough pictures and video, did they check the windows? Because it could have been multiple assailants, and also there are multiple ways to exit. The front door is one of them. It's unlikely, but it's possible. The rear sliding door, all of these windows, right? Plus the ladder. Was the ladder ever taken into evidence? Was it ever fingerprinted to see if there were any fingerprints or shoe prints? Because the person would have been covered in blood. I agree with this attorney, what he's saying.
Use other than just this targeting, because this targeting has been very contradictory. At one stage, they said that the students or the house was not targeted. If those were not the targets, then what was or who was the target? And so you got a frustrated community out there that have not been given enough information.
And let me just pause here just to interject. The targeted attack, again, like he's saying, was the house the target? Was something in the house a target? Did it appear that anything was taken? Was there a robbery? Was there any drugs? Or was the house known to have drugs or sell drugs? Were any of the victims a target, or was being targeted or stalked? Again, we can look at what we know, which was Kaylee allegedly had a stalker. It's a lot of different angles. I think that if you tell someone that there was a targeted incident, that makes others feel that they are not vulnerable. They don't have to necessarily raise their alerts or respond in a fearful manner or feel threatened potentially, because this was a targeted attack, in my opinion, from what the police have said. They said it to reduce safety concerns, because you have to think there are a ton of students. This is going to cause a massive amount of fear among these young college students who have to go to class, have to get up early, have the classes in the evening. In this area, it may be extremely dark at 5:30, 6 o'clock, etc. So this also helps with safety and safety concerns.
Yeah. Ted, in one of those pictures that we saw, there's a computer monitor that is still on. It's displaying an error message. But then in some of the other pictures, there's not very much that looks like it's been knocked over or ransacked. Does that, in your mind, help to rule out any motives?
Well, I don't think they can rule out anything at this stage, Jackie. I'm sure that law enforcement has taken a look at that computer. They've looked around each and every one of these rooms. As you know, this was and is a crime scene. And up until yesterday, the automobiles in front of this crime scene was left in place, frozen in time.
Yeah.
So they have done, meaning law enforcement, a deep scrub of those street theories to try to determine who is or was the killer. And so what they're now doing is through forensics. They are going back. They're looking at the test of the forensics. They know that this was at one time a party house. So they're now trying to do a process of elimination to try to find the killer. They're trying to also talk.
Let me pause there for a second. When he says we know that this was a party house, remember I told you the history of the house? Sometimes fraternities where it was all boys, and sometimes it was sorority girls, all girls. So this equates to you're going to have a ton of DNA, you're going to have a ton of fingerprints, you're going to have people coming and going, being familiar with this house. Is it a possibility that someone showed up? Is it a possibility that someone thought this was a boy's house now? Or it was retribution for something that didn't necessarily have anything to do with any of the girls, because the house was being occupied sometimes by all boys and sometimes by all girls. The hard thing is the two people that likely would not have been there would have been Kaylee, who had moved out, and then you also have Ethan that was not a resident. So when we separate and take Kaylee out of the scenario and Ethan out of the scenario, you would wonder, well, is Maddie the target? Is Xana the target? Or is something in the house the target? Did they have something going on in the house? Or was the house at a prior time having something going on, illegal activity, anything drug related, anything, was anything online? You can, have these different accounts and things. And, I just think of it all. Let's continue.
To anybody who knew any of these 4 students to find out if there were any beefs that anybody would have had against any one of these 4 students that would have led to this kind of a murder.
We learned from one of the victims' daughter died in the same bed as her best friend. So one question investigators have now is, how was a killer able to overtake 2 victims at the same time? What are your thoughts on that?
Pause again. You don't want to say that specifically. Just like you don't want to say they were all sleeping. You don't know. Were they at home? Yes. Were they in bedrooms? Yes. It doesn't equate to they were asleep. Now, do I think that Maddie was asleep? Yes, I think Maddie was asleep in her bed. What bugs me is both Maddie and Kaylee's phone had no more activity after 2:52 a.m. Was there an interruption? My concern is because Maddie didn't have defensive rooms, it makes me feel that Maddie was in bed. Although both their phones didn't have any activity after 2:52 a.m. Again, I'm still concerned about exactly where Kaylee was when everything started on the 3rd floor. Was she in her old bedroom? Because Murphy, her dog, was found in her old bedroom. Or was she in Maddie's room? And the other thing is, when they came back, they had been at the corner club. They had gone to the grub truck. When they came back to 1122 King Road and Murphy's there, where was Murphy placed for all of that time? Was he in a bedroom? And when they came back, did they get him and take him outside so he could go to the bathroom? That's a long time to have a dog not relieved outside. I thinking is maybe scratch scratch the assailant when they were fighting back, or scratch their face, their hands, their arms, their body, their chest. And that's one of my biggest things with Brian Kohlberger. It's just very hard for me to get past that he didn't have any defensive wounds. Defensive wounds would come from a assailant striking, fighting, trying to unalive his victim. And the victim, in this case, it was both allegedly Kaylee and Xana who fought back. So they showed signs of defensive wounds. Defensive wounds would come if, for example, you try to grab the knife and your finger might get cut, your arm might be sliced, etc. I'm not going to go into any more detail with that. But I think you get the point. The video kind of cut, but I think we can move on to the next article. This article is on ABC. Green and okay, trying to pull up a picture of her. Okay. So this is the sixth roommate. Her name is Ashlin Couch, and she's just giving, a statement and coming forward to acknowledge that she was the sixth roommate on the lease, but she did not live there at the time of the killing. She had moved out months and months before the killings because she had graduated and obtained her degree from the university. Okay. More than a year after her friends and former roommates were killed in an off-campus house in Idaho, Ashlin Couch said she wished she could have said a proper goodbye. Couch had lived until May of 2022 in the six-bedroom in an off-campus house on King Road in Moscow, Idaho. 4 University of Idaho students were killed in the house months later in November of 2022. It crosses my mind more that could have happened while I was there, Couch said in an interview on Good Morning America on Wednesday. And you never know like how long someone is watching your house. Police arrested Brian Koberger, a graduate student at Washington State University, in December of 2022 and later charged him with first-degree murder and burglary. A judge entered a plea of not guilty for Koberger in May of 2023. Couch had moved out months after graduating in December of 2021, but kept in touch with her former roommates, Madison Mogen, 21, and Kaylee Goncalves, 21, she said. Both were killed in the house along with Xana Kernodle, 20, and Ethan Chapin, 20, in November of 2022. So pretty much what Miss Couch is saying is I was close to both Kaylee and Maddie. So after I moved out, I still kept in touch with them. We stayed connected, probably through text mainly, maybe even online. Okay. And I remember like my last text message to her was like, "Are you okay?" Couch said. Oh, I'm sorry. I missed a little bit. Couch recalled getting a text from the University of Idaho alerting her to a suspected homicide on King Road. She recalled texting a thread with her former roommates on it. She said, asking if anyone had heard from Maddie. And I remember like my last text to her was like, "Are you okay?" Couch said. And I feel like right then and there, I kind of just knew that something was wrong. The 3-story house where she had lived with her friends was demolished in December 2023. The killings were often on her mind, and more than a year later, she was still having difficulty walking to her car in the dark, she said. But she also wished she could say a proper goodbye to her friends. And that's the one thing that I just wish I could do at least one more time. She said, like, just give her one last hug just to be able to say goodbye. So let's watch the video. It's right here. This is her doing her interview for Good Morning America.
We have the Idaho College murder case. We're now hearing from a former roommate who once lived at the house where the killings took place. Kana Whitworth is here in the studio with us and has more. Good morning to you, Kana.
Robin, good morning. So Ashlin Couch moved out of that house on King Road months before her friends were murdered. And this morning, she shares the memories, both happy and haunting, including the moment she got that vandal alert that changed everything.
I mean, I couldn't even walk to my car in the dark for months after, it happened.
Fear lingering with Ashlin Couch after her friends were stabbed to death in their off-campus home in Moscow, Idaho, a home where she too once lived.
It crosses my mind more that could have happened while I was there. And, you never know like how long someone is watching your house.
The 6th bedroom on King Road was hers. And now this morning,
She's speaking out for the first time on camera since Kaylee Goncalves, Madison Mogen, Xana Kernodle, and her boyfriend Ethan Chapin were murdered in November of 2022. Ashlin initially signed the lease to live in the popular off-campus home, telling our station KXLY that she moved out in May of 2022 after graduating the semester before. But she stayed close with the girls, especially Maddie, sharing the last message she sent to her after getting an alert from the University of Idaho that there had been a suspected homicide.
I texted like our group of friends and I just had said, has anyone heard from Maddie? And I remember like my last text message to her was like, are you okay? And I feel like right then and there, I kind of just knew that something was wrong.
The man charged with their murders, Brian Koberger, a judge entering a not guilty plea on his behalf, as his defense team says he was out driving that cold November night, as he often did, to hike or stargaze. But prosecutors allegedly linking Koberger to the heinous crimes through DNA left on the button strap of a knife sheath found underneath Maddie.
You wish that you could just say goodbye, and that's one thing that I just wish that I could do at least one more time, is like, you know, just give her one last hug just to be able to say goodbye.
Now, the home that they shared has been torn down. The next hearing in this case is May 14th, and Koberger's attorney, Ann Taylor, says she will deliver a witness list and exhibits that she says will support his alleged alibi. And you guys might remember they've also said they'll rely heavily on expert testimony from cell phone experts to prove what they say he was doing that night.
Oh, wow.
This is chilling.
Yeah, it's true. It certainly is.
And thank you for bringing it to him. Good to have you in the studio.
Of course.
Okay, everybody. You know, what do you think about the sixth roommate coming out? Do you have any comments about it? Do you feel any kind of way? I really don't have an opinion about her coming out. I know some people said, well, what did she come out for? To me, I'm not looking at the time. I'm not looking at the timing of it. That's not important to me. I would want to focus on more about what can help the case. What can we learn? Can you add any value? Can you fill in some of the questions that, you know, would be reasonable regarding the property and the residents and, you know, the comings and goings and the parties and things of that nature. I think people have questions and they want answers. And the video didn't really detail anything meaningful that would help in the endeavor of trying to figure out what happened, what potentially was threats. It didn't really give us any new information. So that's my opinion. Let me know what you think, right? So thank you for spending this time with me. Remember, stay smart, stay safe, stay savvy. Be well, all my friends. Bye, everybody.